guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my weekly wrap up, or what I'm probably going to refer to from now on as my weekly book and tea wrap up for the week. So without further ado, I'm going to get started. You may have noticed that last week I missed my wrap up, and that was because of the move, and I did manage to film something and then I lost all of the footage. I'm going to really quickly go through the titles and what I rated them, and I will have reviews up for them soon. I'm not going to spend too long talking about them, otherwise this video is going to be ridiculously long. For the week of January the 22nd to the 28th, I basically read books on my iPad because everything else was packed away. The first book that I read was Every Heart a Doorway by Sean Maguire, which was a really fantastic book, and I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Playboy Pilot by Penelope Ward and Vi Keeland, and I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 4.5 stars. Then I finished up the Shadow Me series by Tahira Mafia, so I read the second book, Unravel Me, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars, Fracture Me, which was the novella between 2 and 3, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars, and Ignite Me, which I gave 4, which was the final book in the series. Overall, I enjoyed the series, although there were some things about it that just really were a bit odd. So look out for my reviews for those for further information. And now on to what I read this week. The week from January the 29th to February the 4th. I'm back at work, so this is back to my regularly scheduled 3, maybe 4 books a week sort of wrap up. First up, I read Country Roads by Nicole Hurley Moore, which was sent to me for review by Ellen and Unwin. This is a general fiction book set in Outback Australia. It is set in obviously a small country town, and Bec Dupre runs her family's sheep station after her father has an accident and finds himself wheelchair bound, and she is caught between the responsibilities of running the farm and a father who is still trying to remain in charge of the farm, even though he's not the one out there doing the work. Then there's Matt, who is a best-selling author who is involved in a car accident that kills his fiancée, and he is left at a crossroads, and he finds himself moving to this small town to get away from the city and to get back into writing. And it's a story of how they meet and their unlikely romance. Honestly, this was just a fun read. It was light, it was easy, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. I do have another book by Nicole Hurley Moore, which I'm looking forward to reading very soon. Then I read Her Every Fear by Peter Swanson, which was also a book sent to me for review by Ellen and Unwin, so thank you very much again. This is meant to be a thriller. It was sort of more of a mystery, and it's told from multiple perspectives. One of our main characters, Kate, lives in England and is coping after a brutal attack by her boyfriend. She is contacted by a cousin over in America who is moving to England for work and suggests that they swap apartments for 6 months. When she gets to Boston, Kate finds out that her next door neighbour in her cousin's apartment has been killed, and this basically is the mystery of how and why this murder occurred. There are multiple perspectives told in this story, and probably one of the things that was interesting for the first part and then got a little bit tough to read was the fact that every time you change perspective, you go back in time and you are retold events from the different perspective. So it is very fascinating, but by the time we get to the last perspective, which is the killers, you're sitting there going, okay, we've heard this a couple of times now, can we move on? I'm sort of in two minds about how I felt about that sort of stuff. It was really interesting because it is really character driven, and you get all of the motivations behind all of the characters and all of their backstories, which is fascinating because it's not just Kate and her cousin, but it's the killer, and it's all these people who are living in the surrounding apartments and how they view this event. What I also really liked was this sense of almost claustrophobia that you get when you hear the story from Kate's perspective, because she is riddled with fears. She's so anxious and still reeling from the attack by her ex-boyfriend that everything just sort of sets her off, and that was really well done, and you really felt for her. Overall, I gave Her Every Fear 3.5 out of 5 stars. Worth a read if you like that sort of book. Next, I read A Shadow's Breath by Nicole Hayes. I picked up this book this week when I went to the book launch for the book, so I've got it signed, yay! And this is a young adult Australian contemporary novel set in a small town. This story is told from the perspective of Tess, who has just been involved in a car wreck, and it's both a survival story as well as her history, because the story alternates between what happened in the past and what's happening in the present. So each chapter alternates as we find out more about Tessa's history and her family life, which is really, really sad. Her father has previously died. Her father's death was the cause of her mother's drinking problem, and her mother then subsequently had a relationship with a very abusive guy. We meet her friends and her support network and her boyfriend, who she's also involved in the car wreck with. Honestly, it was just beautifully told. I really did enjoy it. It made me cry at the end. I very rarely cry in books, and I was in tears for the last probably 50 or so pages. The survival story aspect was really interesting as Tessa and Nick try to escape from their wreck in the middle of nowhere. There's nowhere around them. They've got to walk all the way through the bush to try and get help. There's just a sense of urgency. It was a really quick read. It was very easy. And well done, Nicole Hayes. This was lovely. Thank you for writing it. Then I read Neon Layoffs, which is a picture book, and this was also sent to me for review by Ellen and Unwin, so thank you very much because this was very cute. This is the story of Leon, who is a chameleon, and he is neon orange, so he struggles to fit in everywhere. This picture book is really aimed at the youngest end of the spectrum for picture books. Probably between 3 and 6 would appreciate this, so it's not one of the more complex picture books that are really good for older children as well. The author talks to the audience through the story and asks the kids to participate in telling Leon what's going to happen next, which is really fun to read if you're reading with younger readers. Ultimately, it's about Leon trying to find somewhere where he fits in and where he doesn't feel so strange because he doesn't change colour. Poor Leon. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. Great read for younger readers. I've also started Love, Lies and Linguine by Hilary Spears. This was sent to me again for review. This one was an unsolicited review. I'm only partway through it. This is not really my normal style of reading, even for general fiction, which I know I've said a lot, that general fiction is not really my particular jam for reading. But even this one is a lot slower paced. It is the story of Hester and Harriet, 2 widowed sisters who have gone on holiday to Italy. It is the second book in a series, and I haven't read the first one. There are hints to the first story, but I don't think you necessarily need to have read it to read this one. It might help with some of the story plots. I don't think that's what's affecting my reading. I think it's just a much slower pace than I'm used to reading, but I'm hoping to finish it this week. So these are the 4 books that I read this week. Quite fun. I'm hoping that I can sort of stick to about 3 books a week now that I'm back at work, because I've got a hell of a lot of books to get through. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're having a wonderful day. Don't forget to let me know down below what were you reading this week? What was your favourite read this week? Because inquiring minds want to know. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for future videos, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye!